with the Minnesota Department of Transportation. I'm sorry, I'm dealing with an echo down here.
Thank you. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Try this again. So,
Then maybe let's try the thing.
should I use that microphone?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. No, there's
Daubenberger. Usually when that echo like that happens, there's two sign-ins at the same time going on. Is there someone else signed on in there?
Everyone, I think I'll run down there and see if I can help. I'll be right back.
try this one more time. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Can I get some confirmation that you can hear me?
Hey, Nancy, this is Katrina. It sounds better now.
Oh, thank you, Katrina. Good. Eric might be on his way down, so I'll add the little bit to make sure he gets down here and knows that we're back in business now. But anyway, again, thanks everybody for joining this afternoon. And again, this is the January meeting of the Environmental Quality Board, and my name is Nancy Daubenberger, and I'm the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Transportation and the Chair of EQB. And just want to say, for the state of Minnesota, yesterday was certainly an exciting day. Our Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan announced part of their budget, the part that is making Minnesota the best state in the country for kids. And there are going to be additional rollouts to the budget over the coming week. And so we'll hear more from our governor and lieutenant governor about their budget proposal for the legislature. But yesterday there was a very big announcement on what the proposal means for children, youth, and families in Minnesota. So with that, why don't we get started? And I didn't see Eric come back down here, so I'm assuming he's back at his computer tuned in. So let me just do a quick check on that. Director?
Yep, I'm here, Madam Chair. Yep.
Thank you. Good, thank you. Interim Director Dahl will now call the roll call.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Board Member Peter Bakken.
Present.
Board Member Joseph Bauerkemper.
Present, thanks.
Board Member Brooke Cunningham. Okay, we'll come back. Chair Nancy Daubenberger.
Here.
Board Member Kenneth Foster.
Here.
Board Member Commissioner Steve Grove. Board Member Riley Hintz.
Here.
Board Member Commissioner Katrina Kessler.
Present.
Board Member Mehmet Kohner Steenberg. Board Member Nicholas Martin.
Here.
Board Member Paul Nelson.
Present.
Proxy for Board Member Peterson, Peter Chesset.
Present.
Board Member Commissioner Alice Roberts Davis.
Present.
Board Member Commissioner Sarah Stroman.
Present.
Board Member Bowser Chair Jerry Van Amberg,
Present.
and proxy for Met Council Sue Vento.
Present.
All right, Madam Chair, we have a quorum. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Director Dahl and everyone. So then since we have a quorum, we can move on to the approval of the consent agenda. And with that, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Katrina. I'll make that motion.
You, Commissioner Kessler, may I have a second?
Second, Van Amberg.
You. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. So no opposition, the motion carries. Consent agenda is adopted. So now I will turn it over to our interim executive director, Eric Cedarleaf Dahl, for the director's report.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to note that it looks like Assistant Commissioner Dan Huff from the Minnesota Department of Health has also joined us. And let's see, just a couple of announcements. One that you've heard about before is that Congressional District Seat 3 is open and continues to be open right now, and it'll be open until it's filled, and you can nominate folks on the Secretary of State website. And if you would like any language to help promote that or want any more information on that, EQB staff can help, but we would love to fill that seat when we're able to, and they'll work through the Secretary of State and Governor's office to fill that once we have candidates that work. Let's see, we also, next week, Tuesday, EQB will be hosting a water meeting with the University of Minnesota at the Humphrey Institute, and that water meeting will be focused on the State Water Plan Goal 5, Strategy 4, which looks at climate change and mental health impacts to changing water resources. We have a great slate of speakers there, and we're going to be talking about how we can better connect the U of M and the state to connect research and apply that research in state work, Met Council work, and we're really excited about that event, and I'll send an email out to the board once we complete that event. And this is the pilot for this U of M EQB partnership, and so we hope to be doing more of these in the future on different goals in the state water plan and different strategies and topics. So hopefully it goes well. And then let's see, we have recently updated the EQB website to have a tribal relations webpage, and Kayla Walsh is the tribal point of contact for that webpage. And we just wanted to have a specific point of contact that folks know where to go to. And we'll have more updates on that as we continue to work on our tribal consultation policy and other ideas for board members to get involved in that. And we'll be working on that over the rest of this biennium. So then a couple of logistics, just like we've done before. If you would like to speak, you can raise your hand in WebEx, and EQB staff are paying attention to that. You can also type your name in the WebEx chat, and we'll get that to the chair so that we know you'd like to make a comment. Board members, you can just jump right in or just physically raise your hand, or you can also do the raise hand function there. Here's how you do that. We do have a seat available at the PCA offices if a member of the public does want to join us in person to give public comment. But otherwise, if you'd like to give public comment, this is how you raise your hand in WebEx on the screen here. Or you can do it via your phone, or you just chat us, like I mentioned, and one of the EQB staff will make sure they pass it on to the chair, and then we'll get you set up to make a public comment. And with that, Madam Chair, I pass it back to you.
All right, thank you, Director Dahl. So today, our first item is in the Environmental Quality Board overview. So our interim director, Eric Cedarleaf Dahl, is going to be providing that board overview.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm still catching my breath from running up those stairs, but I'm going to give you an overview of the EQB board, just so kind of level setting, and so everybody can know, what we're working on here in the rest of this biennium. Talk to you about our past budget, and just kind of how we spend our funds, and just different areas we're working on, and how EQB staff and the board determine what we work on. So again, thanks for the opportunity to present today. Let's see if I can get my screen to work here. Okay, there we go. So, the Environmental Quality Board, as you all know, dates back 50 years, and it really is a unique organization in the state and nationally. We're charged with governing and implementing one of the state's foundational environmental laws, MEPA, or the Minnesota Environmental Policy Act. As you all know, the board consists of 9 state agency leaders and 8 public members, 1 from each congressional district. We currently have a team of 6 staff, but when we're at full staff, we have 9, which includes the executive director. Our authorities are referenced on the slide here, our different statutes, 116C, 116D, G, and 103A and B. Those are our water statutes. And so last budget session, EQB had a biennium budget of about $2.6 million. And this was a request of continuation of our current funding level. And right now, without the governor's budget being out there, we're just going to talk about what we've had in the past. Of those funds, about 70% goes to staff salaries. About a quarter goes to the MPCA for shared expenses, such as human resources, IT, and office space here in the PCA building. And the remainder of our budget goes to the Attorney General and other expenses, such as board meeting expenses, communications support, professional development for staff, the Environmental Congress, which we'll be talking about later, and just any other events that we might put on. Our fund is comprised of about 85% general fund and 15% environmental fund. So that's just kind of a real high level look at our budget, and we can get into that in more detail at another presentation, or if you have other questions. So as many of you already know, that EQB's work falls into 3 buckets. We have oversight of the Minnesota's Environmental Review Program. Second, we work across agencies to address critical and emerging environmental issues, as well as policy development. And finally, we serve as a forum for public engagement. In the following slides, I'll give you a couple updates and a few highlights on work from each of these areas and how it relates to EQB's mission. But first, we'll kind of step back and look at EQB's planning, how we plan, and how we develop our work plan is first we have our 5-year strategic plan, which comes due at the end of 2023. We'll need to be updating that strategic plan. And then every biennium, the staff comes to the board and works with the chair and the board to put together a board-approved work plan. And so we'll be coming to you in July 2023 here, or June or August, right around that time, and seeking approval of a board-approved work plan. And so that'll relate directly to components of the strategic plan. And then from that board-approved work plan, we put together an internal quarterly work plan that staff works on, and we check up on quarterly and kind of set goals, set recommendations related to it, and kind of work together as a staff to problem solve and focus on how do we get this done in the time needed. And then part of the executive director's role and staff's role is to have these week-by-week project work plans where all the staff kind of set out, here's how the arc of the project, and here's what they'll be working on week to week. And then each staff member also has individual work plans with bi-weekly check-ins with the executive director to see how things are moving, see if the executive director or the board or agencies can provide assistance in moving those projects forward. So the strategic plan, just a reminder there, and this is again how we kind of set our work, is these different kind of outcomes, which is we have these 6 outcomes of innovative policy development, leadership on emerging issues, transparent, accountable, and efficient environmental review, public engagement that prioritizes diversity and inclusion, collaborative interagency work built on trust, and local government and community connections. And so we went through a whole process the last time in developing the strategic plan for the current EQB board, and we'll be launching one of those, an update to the strategic plan here in 2023, probably this summer, working on, what do we want to update with this? What do we want to change about it? Can we possibly have more specific metrics about how we measure some success in some of these areas? Or do we need to make changes to some of our goals and some of our results and outcomes statements? So that's our strategic plan. And so going back to kind of some of those buckets around environmental review, interagency leadership, and engagement, here's some examples of things we've done in 2022, just to reorient the board and level set on that, and then some things that we're going to be working on in 2023. So as everyone knows, the environmental review program is to provide understanding of the impact a proposed project will have on the environment, and through the preparation and public review of environmental documents. And so the board's has a responsibility for monitoring the effectiveness of environmental review and is directed by rule to take appropriate measures to modify and improve its effectiveness. And so with that oversight of the environmental review planning tool, EQB works with state and local governments, businesses, and public to foster a process that's transparent, accountable, efficient, and sustains a healthy and strong economy in Minnesota. And so one of the principal ways we do that is providing technical assistance to project proposers, governmental units, and the public. And we frequently give presentations around the state to groups that want to better understand environmental review and how the process works. And so a couple highlights from the last year is we have our interactive map that shows active environmental review projects across the state. Users can click on the map and find information about a public comment period, notices of decision, links to relevant documents. In 2023, we'll be launching a searchable database of environmental review projects to give Minnesotans another way to access information and for EQB to generate improved data about the program. Second, as many of you likely know, after a 9-month pilot, the EQB chair approved the greenhouse gas information on the EAW form. So that was a great accomplishment in 2022. The board updated the form and that integrates climate change information into the ER program. And moving on from that, we'll also be, implementing the guidance around that update, as well as the Ombuds pilot and other technical assistance and surveys related to that. And so then just another thing that we'll be working on in 2023 is launching a new environmental review submittal service, which will streamline the process for responsible government units. And we've just launched the continuous improvement project, which you all are aware of, and you'll hear more of an update on from Mad later in this meeting. So that's just a little bit on environmental review, some things we did in 2022. Some interagency leadership we participated in 2022 is, we had a really busy year in 2022 working across agencies on issues as diverse as state water plan implementation, solar development on closed landfills. We produced a report and continue to have interagency work on that. We supported the climate change subcabinet and we're a member. As you all know, we completed the pollinator protection through our annual pollinator report, and Rebecca continues to work with the pollinator team on the pollinator action framework. We've got the pilot program and technical support that we provided on climate assessments this last year. In January, we completed a 404 assumption study, which is available on our website, and we worked with Bowser and DNR on that. And then we continue to support the Emerald Ash Borer interagency team and continued support of the Green Step Cities program. And then finally, public engagement is really fundamental to EQB, and we make our best decisions on the environment when we have opportunities for the public to weigh in and when we represent broad interests across the state. Each of you public members are a unique asset in that regard. You can bring perspectives from your community and areas of expertise to the board for discussions and decisions, and that's a really important aspect of EQB. In 2022, we continued to hold monthly meetings open to the public, as well as continued to work with to lead our Emerging Environmental Leaders program, work with the Interagency Climate Engagement Team on the Climate Action Framework, and had project-specific engagement related to pollinators or water, other projects we were working on at EQB. In 2023, of course, we'll hold the Environmental Congress in the fall, and we hope to continue building on all of these engagement opportunities that we worked on in 2022. And I'll go into a couple more details of what's ahead in 2023 in the next few slides. And so where we're kind of headed, again, we've got the continuous improvement of environmental review. And so hopefully that's an opportunity that the board can help give input to what should be some programmatic changes to environmental review and how can we prioritize those changes so that once we complete the continuous improvement project for this kind of iteration of it, we can take some of those projects and begin work on program improvement or other changes. Again, I mentioned we'll be implementing that environmental review submittal service and database this year. That's a long-standing project that we've been working on, and that database is going to give us a whole slew of new data that we're going to have on environmental review across the state, which we'll be able to mine and come up with some recommendations based on data. We have that environmental review ombuds position that Denise fills right now, and that's proactively helping on the implementation of the EAW form and seeing if folks have any issues with it or have any feedback. And then we'll be doing environmental review guidance updates as well this year, working on overall guidance updates as well as climate-specific guidance updates. More where we're continue to head is we're working on that pollinator action framework, and we expect to see something that done by around September 2023. We have the Environmental Congress in the fall of 2023. That'll be paired with the Environment and Energy Report Card, which is a report on 5 different components of looking at how is the climate and energy doing in Minnesota. That'll be paired with the Congress, and we'll release that in fall 2023 along with the Congress. We have the implementation of the State Water Plan, where we continue to check back on that, and we have this pilot U of M collaborative workshop this month, but we hope to have more of those in the future. We have the EQB and MEPA 50th anniversary celebration in 2023. We'll have that strategic plan update in the fall of 2023. So that's just a couple more things of where we're headed, and then just where we're headed continued is we continue to work on tribal relations, and Kayla is really spearheading that work, and we'll continue to engage with the board on where we should head with that. We'll continue to work on emerging environmental leaders this year, connecting them to EQB and hopefully having a meeting sometime in the next year or having them engaged with the Environmental Congress. And then we're always working with our agency partners and just folks around Minnesota to identify emerging environmental issues. And we're not sure what those will be yet, but that's a component of EQB that we're always trying to keep our ear to the ground to see, what are some emerging environmental issues. And like I said, this was a pretty brief overview, pretty high level overview. A lot of you already know this, but I just wanted to make sure everyone kind of knew what we accomplished in 2022 and where we're headed for 2023. So thank you very much. And if anyone has any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Dahl, for that overview. That was very helpful. But I will pause here now and see if any board members have any questions. If you do, feel free to just jump in or raise your hand and I can call on you. Director Dahl, I am not seeing any hands up nor hearing anything unless I'm missing something. Do you see any questions?
I'm not seeing anything either, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you again for that overview.
I did want to just mention one moment that I believe that our new board member, the Commissioner of the Department of Health, has joined us. I got a text that said that. Just wanted to make sure to mention that.
And there I see her on the video. Good afternoon.
Good
Commissioner
afternoon,
Cunningham.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Actually, why don't we just pause here and take a moment? So Commissioner Cunningham, anything you'd want to say to greet the group or to provide just a moment of background on yourself?
No worries. Thank you so much. So my name is Brooke Cunningham. I am the new Commissioner of Health. I was previously Assistant Commissioner for Health Equity, and so joined MDH in March of 2022, and now happy to be in the role of Commissioner. Clearly, we know that there are a lot of challenging health inequities, including associated with exposure to environmental toxins. We know the importance of clean drinking water. So I am really happy to be part of this, to follow up with my team in environmental health here as they think about particularly the health of all Minnesotans, but also those who are disproportionately impacted by health inequities. So here to learn and to think with you all. And just a shout out, as you all know, we have a group associated with looking at the effects of climate change. And so I know that this is also a space that will engage with that, hopefully. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Cunningham, for introducing yourself and providing that bit of background that is helpful for us, and appreciate Dan Huff from MDH has been on last meeting as well as me too. So with that, we will move on to the next agenda item, and that is the Environmental Quality Board budget request. And as I mentioned earlier, there is information that's going to be coming out over the next week on Governor Walz, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan's budget. But I think our Director Dahl plans to just kind of scratch the surface, talk about some needs that we still have. So with that, I am going to go ahead and I'm sorry, it's Kayla Walsh who's going to be talking about this today, so and present to the board. So Kayla, are you ready?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, members and members of the public. My name is Kayla Walsh, and I am the Environmental Review Program Administrator. So I'm here today to give a brief overview of the EQB's legislative request, which was submitted last year and did not move forward, but we hope it is included in the governor's budget this session. If it does move forward, I will be the point of contact for this initiative. And this proposal is for climate tools and guidance that are complementary to work being done by EQB member agencies to incorporate greenhouse gas assessments into their environmental review processes. It is also complementary to efforts by state and local governments to better assess and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Next slide, please. So the two main deliverables for this proposal will be an interactive Minnesota-specific emissions assessment tool and a Minnesota-specific greenhouse gas emissions guidance document that is specific to sources and sectors. The proposal will ensure accuracy and consistency of climate information on the environmental assessment worksheet form, while also reducing the time, cost, and uncertainty for project proposers and government units. So this proposal was developed partially in response to concerns that were raised by members of the public from project proposers and government agencies. EQB received broad input on the need for additional tools and climate assessments. While EQB has already developed some guidance, local governments requested more detailed Minnesota and sector-specific tools and resources. And if developed, the tools will be available for all Minnesota businesses and communities to use for planning and to help identify opportunities for climate smart design, development, and innovation. So the existing guidance document that we have on our website now for climate assessment is a very general, high-level resource that does not consider the nature or location of a specific project. It includes a framework for the types of information that might be helpful in responding to the climate questions on the EAW form, and it identifies options for already available resources and tools. The responsible governmental unit has discretion for deciding what information is relevant, what types of assessment are needed, and which tools or resources could be applicable to an individual project review. This guidance was designed to ensure a consistent approach for all project types statewide among different responsible governmental units. This legislative request, however, produces a different guidance in that it provides greater specificity. It includes staff time to work with individual, state, and local government agencies to develop climate guidance that is specific to their designated project types. This guidance would help individual responsible governmental units provide clarity and consistency with expectations for their project submissions. This guidance will be updated and posted by the RGUs themselves, and if feasible for it to be developed within the time frame and cost of the project, the tool could include additional planning elements for project proposers to consider the effects of comparing different mitigation options and best practices for reducing overall greenhouse gas emissions. So once the governor's budget is formally announced, we will know for sure if this moves forward, of course, and if it does, we will be sharing more details at that time and keeping you all up to date throughout session. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Kayla. Are there any questions from board members? Again, if so, feel free to just jump in or raise your hand and I can call on you.
Chair Dellenberger, this is Nick Martin.
Go ahead.
Not so much a question, but just a very brief comment. I think this proposal is really well tailored to what we learned in the pilot program because, and we talked a little bit about this in the December meeting, you know, there in the guidance that's been developed so far, you know, it's really useful and it's a whole list of existing tools, but it really presents, I think, RGUs and project proposers with a bit of like a buffet, you know, that they can choose from, which is good, but it doesn't really help them provide kind of certainty around what will be adequate. And so, you know, what an RGU could see as adequate or what a project proposer could use and have at least some level of confidence that the RGU will then see that as an adequate response in the EAW. So I think this idea of developing, you know, Minnesota specific and project specific tools is going to be really helpful to sort of streamline that process. You know, we talked about how an overall finding of the pilot program is that we don't think this is an unreasonably onerous process anyway, but one thing that, you know, was raised by some folks is that there's a lot of tools and it's, you know, it's not always clear what, you know, they might produce slightly different results. It's not always clear which one to use. So I think these kind of resources, if, you know, if funded through the legislative process, could be really useful to sort of streamline the whole, you know, the questions that will now need to be answered in the EAW form.
Thank you, Public Member Martin. Kayla, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think it very well said, so thank you for that comment.
Thanks, Kayla.
Looking to see if there are any other hands up. I'm not seeing any. All right. Thank you again, Kayla, for that
Thank you.
information you shared. All right, so then we will move on to our next agenda item and be an update on the continuous improvement project. So we'll welcome Karen Gates and Miriam Nada from the Management Analysis and Development at the Department of Management and Budget. Karen and Nada, are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
You?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Karen Gatis. I met most of you at the last meeting, but for those of you who are not at the last meeting, I'm Karen Gatis. And Nada, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, I'm Miriam Nada, but I go by my last name Nada.
And we work with Management Analysis and Development, which is part of the MMB agency. We are consultants working on continuous improvement for environmental review. On the next slide, we have an update on our engagement work, research work, and an update on the continuous improvement team. With our engagement work, it's really exciting that Engagement HQ, the Engagement HQ site, launched on January 6th to get written input from partners and members of the public to get information on program improvements. That is going to close on February 17th. And in a minute, we'll show you a screenshot of what it looks like, because you gave input on that at our last meeting, but we'll show you what the final product looks like. The other engagement activity that we have is a virtual listening session. It's on Monday, January 30th from 4 until 6 for participants to share ideas and feedback on environmental review. Then with our next bullet point here on the Interagency Continuous Improvement Team, which that's really the tech rep team. They are representatives from more than a handful of state agencies plus Met Council. There's about 12 people who are on the team. They are most of the folks who were on the team who was working on the climate changes to environmental review, and they've continued on with the continuous improvement team. We are meeting every other week to work with them on forming and shaping the continuous improvement project. So you'll hear more updates at our board meeting, at the board meetings going forward on the work that we're doing. But we had our first meeting last week and it was great. They're really, really helpful, very knowledgeable in environmental review. So we look forward to working with them.
This is Nada again, and I can give a quick update on the background research that we've been doing for this project. So we've completed the background research for this work, and that included state interviews with California, Massachusetts, Washington, and Wisconsin to learn about their practices and successes they've had in their environmental review program. We also reviewed 10 reports from 1994 to 2021 and identified 56 recommendations for improving the Minnesota Environmental Review Program from these efforts. In the research summary, MAD has identified recommendations for considerations for the Continuous Improvement Initiative that have either not been resolved or partially resolved. We also conducted focus literature review, examining best practices in the literature for environmental review. We will share the findings of this research at the February board meeting. Next slide. And this is the page for the Engagement HQ work that was launched on February 9th. So we're asking members of the public as well as those that engage with the environmental review program to provide suggestions and feedback on how to improve the program. In addition to this broader question about how can we ensure that Minnesota's environmental review program meets your needs now and into the future, we've also provided prompts. They include, if you had a magic wand, what one thing would you do to improve the environmental review program? What is the environmental review program doing well or not well? What are the characteristics of an effective environmental review program? And this page will be live till February 17th. This is being administered through EQB, but MAD consultants will be reviewing the responses and analyzing and synthesizing them. back to you.
That's all we
Karen.
have today. We just have 2 slides. So if anyone has any questions, we welcome your questions on the continuous improvement project.
Thank you for that update, Karen and Nada. Do any board members have any questions or comments on the continuous improvement project? Seeing any hands up?
Chair Daubenberger, this is Commissioner Stroman, Member Stroman. Just one question regarding the listening session. I have no doubt that agency staff are planning to participate. Are there any expectations around board member participation in those listening sessions? I know in the past, you know, there's been some desire to have at least some number of board members present to demonstrate engagement and active listening. And so I'm just curious if that is part of the plan at all.
Well, thank you for that question, Commissioner Stroman. And I will let Karen or Nada chime in on that.
Board members are certainly welcome to attend the listening session. We have a flexible design, so if that is the format that EQB often uses, where board members attend or a few board members attend a listening session, we're certainly open to that. But we had looked at it more as participants, members of the public, a really broad audience. But if board members would like to, you can let us know and we'll make sure that that's a part of the process.
Let me rephrase my question. I was not asking if board members were expected to come and participate. I get that it's aimed at members of the public and others. I think my question was, is it important to demonstrate board members' investment in this work and board members listening to the members of the public by being present there? It's like a strategic question. Was that considered? And I'm not feeling personally the need to be there, and I don't know what my calendar looks like, but that was my question. I assumed we wouldn't be participating, but it would be there to demonstrate investment and demonstrate listening on the part of the board.
We had looked at having a couple of EQB staff there to give a welcome. And often when we do these kinds of listening sessions, workshops, work groups, that sometimes somebody is there to give a welcome, and more often than not, they exit so that people are more comfortable giving their honest opinion. But it could work. It might be a nice touch for a board member or two to be there to give a welcome and demonstrate interest and commitment in the process.
Thank you, Karen. Again, thank you for that question, Commissioner Stroman. And with that too, we can have some further discussions about that. I like the idea of having us participate at least in the beginning to kick things off, show that leadership from the board at these listening sessions. So we can have some further discussions about you know, what the recommendation to board members might
Yeah,
be.
Chair Daubenberger, I think Executive Director Dahl is physically raising his hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. I gave the directions on how to answer or how to raise your hand, and then I couldn't find how to raise my own hand. Thank you, Commissioner Stroman, for pointing that out. I think it would be really appreciated if board members did want to participate and come to listen. I think we would love to have you, and I think it would really bring a sense of this is a really important project for the board, and we're really excited about the feedback we're getting. And if any of you can attend, we can send you when the meetings are, and we'd love to have your attendance. And I do think it would be helpful to kind of communicate to the public that what we're doing here is kind of looking toward the future of what EQB is going to be working on with relation to updating the program as they recommend. Thanks for calling on me.
Thank you, Director Dahl. I appreciate that input. Yeah, it sounds like there's definitely support in having board members come at least in the beginning and kick things off, show that leadership. Go ahead, Karen. I think I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, so we can certainly work with and through EQB staff to coordinate with the board and see how many people would like to come and then who would like to be the spokesperson or spokespeople to do a welcome, or if there's other information that board members would like to share at the beginning, that would be great.
Thank you, Karen. That sounds good. Great. Others, any other questions, comments, suggestions?
Chair, I'm sorry, just to emphasize, and I think it's fine to have somebody kick it off. I think there is also, in my experience with some of the things, that we're doing with DNR, having leadership accessible and having leadership listening, like visibly listening is important to people. And so I understand the issue about candidness, but frankly, we're a board, we invite the public to come, and I expect people to come and give respectful and candid, input to us here and there. There isn't much as a board we can do if people aren't willing to share. And so, but again, in my experience, people appreciate when leadership is engaged and accessible. And so I wanted to add, I hope it isn't just we're there to convey and then leave, but that it's also showing listening skills and a two-way relationship. So I just wanted to add that because I felt like the emphasis was on board members would share and less on the listening part. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stroman. Appreciate that input. And so why don't, at this point, I will ask Director Dahl to take this feedback and talk with our folks, Karen and Nada from MMB, about that and give some recommendations on what they think the participation should be. All right. Any other comments, suggestions, recommendations? Oh, I think has had his hand up. Now it's down. Was there anything more you wanted to add? Well, then why don't we go ahead and move on? The last part of the meeting is the public comment period. Of course, as we've mentioned before, the board welcomes oral public comment on agenda items 4, 5, and 6. Or if you want to bring up a topic for further discussion, that is fine too. We'll follow the public comment procedures and guidelines provided to you on page 2 of your packet. So with that, please raise your hand in WebEx. And thank you, Director Dahl, for putting up the public comment procedure and guidelines on the screen here. But please raise your hand in WebEx if you'd like to comment, and we can call on those first who signed up in person, have their hands raised in WebEx. So do we have anyone, staff, do we have anybody who has signed up to provide public comment in person?
Madam Chair, no one has raised their hand.
Seeing any hands at this time. I just pause to see if we'll give it a moment for any hands to come up that haven't been able to be raised just yet. Just monitoring the participant list. Not seeing any. So I think we can move on to closing. So I want to first thank board members, members of the public for their participation in today's meeting and the topic discussion. I also want to use this moment to give thanks to our interim director, Dahl, for serving as the EQB director over the last several months. And per the email you sent earlier this week, letting us all know about your plans. Best wishes to you and your family during your leave of absence over the next few months as you support your partner in research that you'll be doing down in Columbia. So we wish you all the best in Columbia, and we'll look forward to your safe return in June. But as I noted also last month, we are in the process of filling the director role. And we posting up, that's come down. We are now in the process of interviewing over the next few weeks. And very likely we won't have the new director selected prior to interim director Dahl going on his leave, which is February 1st. So there may be a need for an interim director, again, for a short time this time. So excited to we have a good pool of candidates, and we'll have updates for the board on the director role soon. And that may be that we'll have another interim director for a short time, but new director once we have that person selected. So just wanted to provide an update on it. And again, thank you, Director Dahl, for your work in the director role as interim director, and appreciate your leadership over these last several months. Best wishes to you and your family over the next few months as you travel. So we've reached the end of the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
This is Commissioner Kessler. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Kessler. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Commissioner Stroman.
Thank you, Commissioner Stroman. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Hearing no opposition, the motion carries and the meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. Bye.